Welcome to Key Business Connect Weekly, the BC edition, your go-to roundup for real estate insights and business developments across British Columbia. I'm your host, Ken McLean, and this is our July 1st, 2025 Canada Day episode. Let's dive into what's shaping the province's economy this week. The Great Retreat. What do you call it when a country builds a tax policy, defends it for years, and then, just as it's about to take effect, backs off at the last second? You call it a Canadian compromise. Our long-awaited digital services tax, designed to make big tech pay their fair share, just got iced by Ottawa under pressure from Trump's threats of more economic retaliation. Critics called it a strategic retreat. Supporters say it's a smart delay. The U.S. gets the win, big tech gets relief. And Canadians, we're still waiting to see if our spine shows up in the next federal budget. But that's not the only fire we're walking through today. Let's talk about billion-dollar ships built overseas, political accountability, bypassed with a smirk, and the future of this province hanging on, and whether or not our leaders can make a principled decision without checking the polls first. Canada's digital services tax, 3% on tech giants like Amazon and Google, was supposed to come into effect June 30th. But days before its implementation, Finance Minister Champagne announced a full stop, setting negotiations with the U.S. Let's decode this. Washington threatened a trade meltdown, with Trump vowing more massive tariffs if the tax went ahead. Ottawa called it diplomacy. We call it ducking out when the stakes get real. And the Conservatives, they cheered. A reckless tax grab, they called it, conveniently ignoring the billions siphoned out of this country by multinational tech firms that pay less taxes than your corner bakery. They're half right. Yes, tariffs would hurt, but this DST wasn't confrontation, it was fairness. We blinked first and left billions on the table. The real question? What do we get in return? If this ends with a hollow trade agreement while Silicon Valley lines its pockets, we'll know exactly what this retreat was worth. Shipwrecked priorities. BC Ferries just handed $1 billion to a Chinese state-owned shipyard for new vessels. And Premier David Eby's response? It's a standalone corporation. That line isn't just tired, it's insulting. The province owns BC Ferries. It appoints the board. It funds operations. Pretending to be powerless is the kind of leadership rot that's hollowed out our trust in our institutions for years. But the deeper scandal? This whole process began 5 years ago, with zero serious consultation with Canadian shipyards. The deck was stacked. China builds 20% of the world's ships using cheap steel, state subsidies, and labor standards that would make any Canadian union cry foul. That's not competition. That's a race to the bottom. Canada once built naval destroyers, supply ships, even whole fleets during wartime. And now we're told we can't even build a ferry? Ottawa stayed silent. BC passed the buck. And now we've outsourced our sovereignty to a regime known for cybersecurity risks, quality control disasters, and playing economic hardball with the West. We're importing not just ships, but dependents. And as for Premier Eby, he has the thinnest majority in BC politics. His own base just passed a motion rebuking this deal. The fallout could be real, could be fast. Our next segment is boom bust in the business of belief. Let's pivot to the heartbeat of the province, business. BC's real estate market is regaining some pulse. Home sales are expected to rise 10 to 15% in 2025. The average price up 3.3%, though affordability is still a fantasy for most. But don't get too comfortable. With Trump eyeing punitive tariffs on Canadian goods, $69 billion and over 120,000 jobs hang in the balance. If that hits, the real estate optimism melts faster than a Vancouver snowflake. And inflation, 2.3% in May. Job vacancies at a 6-year low. Business owners are cautious, hiring is tight, but innovation is still alive and thriving in BC. Some bright spots include Nicole Smith, a photographer, is expanding with AI travel tools. Tierra Fraser is launching a clean tech indigenous airline, and Ashley Michelle is turning traditional art into a global fashion line. But not all's rosy. The BC government just fast-tracked its emergency infrastructure laws, dodging debate and accountability. Critics, including Indigenous leaders, economists, and even former NDP insiders, warn of democratic overreach dressed in bureaucratic efficiency. This is the paradox. A province full of gritty, inspired doers, led by people who seem afraid to do much of anything bold unless they've got focus group cover. Where do we go from here? Canada paused on its tax billionaires. BC handed its billion-dollar ship contract overseas. Politicians pointed fingers, and regular people, they're just trying to stay afloat. So here's what's left. Us, the thinkers, the makers, the ones who refuse to accept that it's too late and too hard or just the way it is. If this country is going to have a backbone again, it won't come from a press release. It's going to come from public pressure, political courage, and a refusal to let another billion-dollar sellout go unanswered. Let's build, let's challenge, let's call it like it is. And let's not wait for permission to make noise. Stand alone. The global wake-up call. Let's zoom out, because this isn't just about BC ferries. It's not just Canada. It's about a worldwide pattern. And we're all sailing straight into it. China now controls over half of the global ship deliveries, nearly 75% of new orders, and 60% of global order book. That's not a market trend. That's a strategic chokehold. And it's not just about price, it's about power. Many of these shipyards are part of China's civil-military fusion strategy, meaning the same facilities building ferries for BC are also building warships for the People's Liberation Army Navy. Every dollar we send their way props up a system designed to undermine Western security and economic independence. And the risks, they're not theoretical. Cybersecurity experts have flagged Chinese-built vessels as potential Trojan horses. Hardware vulnerabilities, tracking tech, and compromised supply chains baked into the hull. Quality concerns are real. Reports of corrosion, substandard steel, and safety failures have dogged Chinese shipyards for years. And now the U.S. is considering steep fines on Chinese-built container ships because 90% of the vessels calling at American ports are made in China. That's how deep the dependency runs. Meanwhile, Canada, we're still signing checks. The Canada Infrastructure Bank just approved a $1 billion loan to BC Ferries to help buy these ships, despite federal ministers publicly opposing the deal. The BC Building Trades called it a stain on BC Ferries and a betrayal of generations of shipbuilders who built this province's maritime legacy. This isn't just a procurement issue, it's a national security blind spot, a job of crisis, a sovereignty sellout. And if we don't start treating it like a global emergency, we'll wake up one day and realize we've outsourced not just our ships, but our future. This is Key Business Weekly, powered by KeyBusinessConnect.com. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and don't miss next week's trends. In future issues, we will feature segments from well-known real estate expert Gopal Sahota, interviews with business experts from all areas, and personal interviews with small and medium-sized business owners and leaders. And until next time, I'm your host, Ken McLean. Remember, connect, grow, and prosper.